quick announcement in case you have missed this. We did announce at the beginning of this year that the vast majority of the items that are in our kits will not be released outside of the kits. So we reserve the right to bring some of them out later, but once these kits are gone, they're gone. So snatch it up. If you see a kit that you love, grab it when it's released. Know that we're releasing it the last Tuesday of every month, so you can plan accordingly if it's something that you think you're going to be interested in. So that is the deal with this kit. Teresa's already got hers ordered. Candy, you watched Heather's video. Cherry, you already watched Heather's video. Awesome. Okay, well, let's get started. I'm going to move you guys down so you can see some of these beautiful cards. And I am actually going to switch gears just a tad here because we have had lots of restocks and new products coming into the TE store recently. And so I wanted to make a few announcements about those things. I know sometimes it's just good to hear that, and maybe you forgot to sign up for the restock notification, or we're just waiting to check back on it. So first up, last week, you guys might remember that we had the spring wreath layering stencil as a free gift with a $75 purchase, and I just wanted to make an announcement because I forgot to tell you guys last week. But that spring wreath does have a die set. So if you're looking for a die to cut out that stenciled wreath, I know Heather showed it on her Thursday Live last week, and there were a few samples popping up over on the fan page using that spring wreath die. So that is available if you receive the spring wreath stencil. We've got plenty of these on hand if it's something you want to add to your cart before it runs out of stock. Since so many people received that stencil for free, I'm guessing they won't last long. Okay, next we have Scrubby soap. So this was something we originally brought in with the lemon and orange scents. It sold out quickly, so I got more of it, and I brought in a new scent. So this is the Lime Scrubby, and you guys, I think it's my favorite of the three. I know I love a good lemon scent, but every time I see this sitting around, I have to open it up. If there was smell-o-vision right now, oh, we would all be in heaven because this stuff smells so good. So if you haven't seen this yet, it's actually a bar of soap with a sponge built into it. It's great for removing things like paint, grease. Actually, I was doing some alcohol inking today, and obviously alcohol ink does seep into your skin and make your hands very dirty, but I was able to get off a lot of it with this Scrubby soap before I came on the live today. Another thing that is back in stock, we have Glitter Grab. So that's been out of stock for a little while, and I just wanted to mention that it has now been restocked at the TE web store. So if that's something you are looking for, our Glitter Grab, it's called Glitter Grab because you can apply it through a stencil and pour loose glitter over the top and then let it dry, and it kind of cements that glitter into place. But it also works awesome for foiling. So you can put your foil over the top and send it through your heat source, and it foils just beautifully. Oh, Deb, I knew somebody would make a comment. So yes, I did get my nails done, and I refuse to call it purple. It's magenta. It's magenta, Deb. Okay, so next up, this is a new product. It is an iteration of a product we've had and that has been very popular, our foam sticky strips. And we now have foam sticky strips with black foam. So you can see here, it is a black foam once you peel that white backing off. Now, why would you want a black foam strip? Well, you might want a black foam strip if you have a black frame that you are putting foam all the way around the outside. It just finishes it off a little bit more, makes that foam almost disappear onto your project, so it's not a stark white contrast against a dark frame with white foam. Another thing that I've been using it for is to pop up things like I guess I did this on my video that's coming out next week. I put it behind a vellum sentiment that was embossed in black so that the black tape blended in with my black embossed sentiment over the vellum. So foam sticky strips now come with black foam or white foam. Make sure you know which one you're checking when you check the box on the website, which one you want. And those are both now an option at the web store. And last but not least for today, we have the new Pixie tape arrived. So I told you guys that I was going to talk a little bit about this, and I'll just open this package because I already have one, but I'm going to need more. So Pixie tape is it's made by the same company as Purple tape. It is made by ThermoWeb. It is not necessarily a replacement of Purple tape, and that will be the first thing that I will tell you. If you're looking for the same Purple tape that was out previously, this is not the same thing, and it was designed to be different, but to do some of the same things. So it is a thin tape, more like if you've seen I feel like Spellbinders has a tape that they call the Perfect tape. It's yellow. It's kind of similar to that as far as the thickness of it. It's a little bit like a washi tape, but not quite so sticky. So if you like to use this to die cut, you can use it to die cut without tearing your paper. I personally, and I've said this several times, I like to die cut with my Scotch removable tape. And so I won't be using this for die cutting. So the fact that it's not super sticky or reusable many, many times doesn't bother me so much. That is the other thing I'll say, is that it is not reusable a ton. So the original Purple tape was a little bit more reusable. You could stick it and re-stick it and re-stick it. I'd say maybe 2 or 3 uses, and then you're gonna wanna crumple this up and get a new piece. And it is also something that they have said previously that you do want to give it some good pressure to tack down onto your paper. So just kind of burnish it when you put it down, or it won't have as much stickiness. If you want it to not have a bunch of stickiness, then just kind of stick it lightly. If you want it to stick well, then really burnish it down and it will stick to your cardstock. So we do now have the Pixie tape, and I will primarily be using this to adhere or tack down my stencils to my cardstock. So I just run a long strip along a couple sides of my stencil to keep the tape and the cardstock together with the stencil instead of using Pixie spray on everything. So that's where you'll see me using Pixie tape the most. All right, I think I got all the goods talked about for new product. Now let's discuss the kit and the new items coming out with the kit. So we have our Graceful Ferns kit. I'll kind of bring in some of the different cards and projects as we talk about the items in this kit. So it comes in our kit pouch with our pouch sticker, Graceful Ferns. And we have 6 different products in here. So it all kind of starts around the Graceful Ferns stamp set with the coordinating die. So the die will cut out both the outline and the solid frond image or fern image. And also there's a die to cut out the With Sympathy sentiment. So those are, you can see that frond is pretty big. It was sized to fit both nicely on an A2 and a mini slim card size. And then one of the hardest things about sympathy cards is, what do you say? What do you say on the outside? What do you say on the inside? And so this is our new Inside Scoop Sympathy set with several different sentiments. There are some that are spiritual. We have a Bible verse in here. May God's mercy and endless grace be with you in this time of sorrow. And we also have others that are not spiritual. So sharing in your sorrow, know that you are loved and never alone. Praying for strength for today and hope for tomorrow. May you find comfort in loving memories, strength in the support of those who care, and hope in each new day. So lots of amazing sentiments that will work both on the inside. There's a small With Sympathy. If you wanted to do outside sentiments for any of these, you could, but they work great for the inside as well. So that's the Inside Scoop Sympathy. And then to round it out, we have our new Leafy Frond die. Now this die is just a standalone die, and it has, you can see on the packaging here, it has the small notches cut into it to give it a little bit more organic, flowy feel. And if I pull in Heather's sample, this is one of the cards that she did on the blog today. You can see the detailing that cuts into those leaves, and that's just kind of one of those cut lines that doesn't actually cut anything off of your die. It just cuts into it to create a cool design. So that is the leafy frond. And then we have, of course, we want you to send your cards. And so we have our 6 envelopes and 6 envelope seals. So there are 2 different versions. I didn't put any words on these because I didn't want them to have to be something that was sympathy, or the recipient to, I guess you as the sender have to send this as a sympathy card. So these are just blank, so that means you can use them for thinking of you or for even birthday. I think this imagery works for a lot of different occasions. So we've got those 6 envelope colors and then the 6 seals to coordinate. Jesse, I kind of covered that at the beginning. So all of the elements in our kits are currently only available as part of the kit, and we may release some of them at a later time, but the vast majority of what is in our kits will not be released separately later. All right, thank you, Vicki. Vicki says, beautiful kit. All right, so that is what is in the contents of the kit. And we have lots of companion products that are also releasing today because I told you guys about my excitement for the alcohol inking. This is something that I have done for years, but it's been a little while since I pulled it all out. It is a messier type of endeavor, but it's so fun and rewarding to get some of these backgrounds and just see the beautiful artistry. I need to show you some more cards that were created with the alcohol inked backgrounds. Pull those in here and I can pull them up close as well. All right, so this one, as I mentioned, is what Heather created on her video today. She'll share which colors she used across the background for that alcohol ink. This one is a background that I made, and then Susan designed the card, so we kind of tag teamed on that one. And then this is another one that Heather made, featuring just a single color of the alcohol ink across the background there with the embossed ferns. So when I thought about an alcohol ink, one of the things you know that I love is bright and vibrant. I know that doesn't always work for sympathy, but I chose to bring in the Pinata alcohol inks. Mine are messy because I have been using them a lot. But we have 15 options in the Pinata colors. These are a beautiful, bright, vibrant alcohol ink. They come in lots and lots of colors. These were my 15 favorite options. We may bring in more in the future, but this would give you a really good start. Or even if you wanted to pick a couple of your favorites, just to be able to create some of the backgrounds that you've seen on videos as well, you could do that. So we've got this collection of the Pinata alcohol inks. And then to blend your alcohol ink, you need a blending solution. And there are a few different options. So we have the alcohol blending solution. This is a Ranger product, I believe. And it's a Tim Holtz product through Ranger. And so you put this across your cardstock and it helps these colors all move and kind of blend and meld together. Now this particular solution includes a resin, which moves a little bit differently, behaves a little bit differently than a typical alcohol. But I know a lot of people who are getting started in this might prefer to craft with just something you can pick up at your local Walgreens or drugstore, the 91% isopropyl alcohol. This also works as a great cleanup solution, so as you're crafting on your glass mat or whatever kind of surface you're using, you can just pour this onto a paper towel and use the alcohol to wipe up the inks and such. So I wanted to show, and in a little bit I will show, how these two types of blending solutions behave differently. And I think it depends on what kind of look you're going for, and you might just want to try both options. I think the isopropyl alcohol gives you a little bit more of a billowy look. It allows you to get some, let me see if I can find I did these swatches yesterday that we have out in the studio so you can see all of the different colors that are available. But you see over here where that looks almost like a geode, sort of like a graduated rings of color. That is something that you can achieve with the isopropyl alcohol. Now something more like these others, here are the blending solution. Now the blending solution, like I think I said, includes a resin in it, which allows you to do something like you see here, where I did this background, and then before it was fully dry, I placed a piece of foil down, and the foil stuck to the portions of the background that weren't quite dry yet. So that's something that you can do with the, let's see if I can find another one. I have another one here. That's something that you can do with the blending solution that you cannot do with the isopropyl alcohol. So the foil does not stick to that. You see that really cool veining over here where the foil stuck down to the lines created from the blend. So those are a couple of different options. Obviously we're not carrying this at the Tailored Expressions store, but you may want to pick up an eyedropper. I just put my eyedropper that we carry at TE full of this isopropyl alcohol, so I have something easy to place it down over my cardstock when I'm ready to work. So we'll use both of those in just a little bit. Okay. Does the alcohol ink come in that container? Sally, I'm not sure. So this alcohol blending solution comes like this, and then this one is just the eyedropper empty is what you would purchase from us, and then fill it with your own isopropyl alcohol. Now, I keep saying isopropyl because that is an important thing. I don't believe just regular rubbing alcohol is something that you would want, that would work for this technique. Okay, next up, something you may want to invest in if you're going to do alcohol ink blending is an air blower. So this looks like a turkey baster, which it may be, but repurposed for crafts. This is a Tim Holtz Ranger product as well, and you just squeeze the bulb at the end and it pushes air through here, which allows you to move your color around on your cardstock. So I will show you that as well. Oh, I see what you guys are asking about, the little tray holding the bottles. No, sorry. No, this is not available at TE, but you can pick up your very own if you have a Dollar Tree nearby you for just $1, which is where I got this little tiered thing here. So that is an option if you have a Dollar Tree near you. Okay, so next up we have for alcohol inking our own alcohol ink cardstock. So something that has kept me from crafting with alcohol ink in the past has been the cost of Yupo paper. Raise your hand if you're aware of Yupo paper and how much it costs. It is pretty expensive, and it makes you not want to experiment because it's just so expensive. So like a sheet that you see here, this package is $6 for 20 sheets of A2 size synthetic cardstock. It is very nice and thick. I'd say it equates to about an 80 to 100 pound cardstock. And it is, like I said, it is synthetic, which means that alcohol ink is going to blend just beautifully, moving across it and drying without soaking into your paper. So when you do alcohol inking, you do need a special paper. You can't just do it on regular cardstock or watercolor cardstock or any other kind of cardstock. So the cost of Yupo paper of this size would probably be somewhere in the 85 cents to $1 per sheet. These are 30 cents a sheet, so $6 for 20 pieces, which allows you a little bit more freedom to experiment. I have tested and tried this. It is very comparable or even better than the Yupo paper. I love it. I can't find anything about it that I don't like. So I'm excited to be able to bring that to you guys as part of the Tailored Expressions collection. So we'll use that here in just a little bit when we get to making some backgrounds. But the other thing I wanted to do for you guys, because I know these alcohol inking and these kind of messy techniques are not everybody's jam. Maybe you just don't have the space or the time or the care to do that, but you love the look of alcohol ink backgrounds. I think I've mentioned in the past that maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, we actually partnered with and acquired a print shop locally in our area, which allows us to do some really cool things when it comes to print. And this is the very first project that we've done, giving a fine art effect to your cards and crafts with our Done For You designs. So Susan and I spent a few days creating beautiful backgrounds using alcohol ink, and then we gave them to our print shop, and they have a fine art scanner, so they were able to scan the designs in a fine art quality and print them onto paper that mimics a synthetic. So it is a little bit, it has a little bit more of a glossy sheen. It is not glossy like photo paper, but it's not a complete cardstock finish that's very matte finish. So it's somewhere in between, and it prints beautifully with those scanned prints. So we created and chose 4 of our favorite prints from our little craft session, and you get 3 each of those designs in each package. And as we were creating, we tried to think about, like, this one is coming in from the top and moving down, so your sentiment might nestle right here. And you could do a vertical card, or you could do a horizontal card and position your sentiment right up there. And then on this one, the design is sort of an ombre from top to bottom, where your sentiment could go down here at the bottom. And then these two also have a little, this one doesn't have much white space, but then you can die cut your sentiment, that with sympathy, and place it over the top. So these and the alcohol, the plain alcohol ink cardstock that I showed you right before this, these 2 items are available outside of the kit. So you can grab as many packs as you want of those to be able to experiment with the alcohol inking, or to create beautiful cards using alcohol inked backgrounds without actually doing it yourself. So my sister looked at these and she was like, I just want to frame these and put them on my wall. So she's not a crafter, but she can see the beauty of these prints and how she might want to use them for something other than cards. All right, so I do have a few cards to show you using our alcohol ink series. Thank you, Lolly. Candy won't spend 3 days cleaning your craft room. Brenda, I'm going to talk, great question from Brenda. She says, what kind of paper are those printed on? Will a dye ink work for stamping directly on there? And we're going to do a little bit of crafting on one of these panels, but that's a great question. So a dye ink does not stamp really well onto the background. So our hybrid ink, the Oreo ink, would stamp on here, but I do actually recommend a StazOn. So that's going to give you a little bit darker effect. You can still close your lid multiple times on your MISTI, and it works really well over both. I think this one is on an actual alcohol inked piece and not one of the printed versions, but I do recommend stamping in a StazOn ink over the top of this. Or our hybrid ink will work. It just takes a little bit longer to dry, or you might want to hit it with a heat tool as well. So another thing you can do on these pre-printed panels, you can emboss on them. So just use your powder tool and emboss the image directly onto the background. And then another thing, this is a new product that we've brought in as well, just available today, the Distress Texture Paste. So I saw my friend and fellow crafter, Mindy Egan, did a beautiful design recently where she put the distress or some kind of embossing paste over the top of an alcohol inked background, and I thought that looked so just very crisp and beautiful. This is our Twiglet die, or I'm sorry, not die, stencil. So you can apply that paste through any stencil and it sticks right to this cardstock, the pre-printed panel as well. So really anything you can think to do, you can do on these panels. Here I did splatter the background with some of our Gonzai Tombi watercolors that we carry, and it dried just perfectly on that paper as well. So I don't think you'll find anything that you can't do. But just experiment a little bit more carefully if you're going to be using inks like our hybrid inks, and I would stay away from dye inks on this particular cardstock. Makes sense? Can you print over it with a printer? I believe you should be able to do that. Yes. I don't know why not. Okay, so those are a few that were created. These three here used the patterns from the pre-printed, and then this was another one that had not pre-printed. It's actually an alcohol ink background. And if I hold them up to the light here, you can see how this one has a little bit more sheen to it than this one does. When it catches the light, it's a little bit more glossy of a finish than the other. So let's do a little bit, oh, sorry, almost. Every time I glance up, it is snowing more. I thought we weren't supposed to get much snow. I wanted to show you guys these because Jill Hawkins showed how, like I said, if you are not into alcohol inking or watercoloring and you simply want to create beautifully blended cards, she has some gorgeous samples here where she just used ink blending with those stamp images to create really simple, serene looking cards. So those are from Jill Hawkins. Of course, you can see her signature stitching on each one of those cards. Jill, still got to get her in to do a stitching sewing class. Okay, so you were asking, I think there was a question about what did I splatter the paper with. That would be these. Oh, upside down. These are the Gansai Tombi Starry colors, and they go all the way from a silvery pearl up to a very bright gold. Candy, do I know when the alcohol ink may be back in stock? I wasn't aware that it was out of stock. I do know that we are offering all of the colors individually, so if the I Want It All pack is out of stock, you can always try to grab all of the colors individually, and we will restock those. Usually it's about a week on those to get them. So I was so busy preparing for my live this morning that I didn't see how quickly things were going, but my goodness, if they are completely all gone. I know we didn't have a ton of the I Want It All sets because we just weren't sure how people would want to purchase them and wanted to give lots of options for picking and choosing, but our I Want It All crowd is winning, it sounds like. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of blending or alcohol inking on our lovely synthetic alcohol ink cardstock. And I was going to show you guys a little bit of the difference here. So on the left is this one here, is a piece that I did with the ink blending solution, the alcohol blending solution. So that's this one. And over here is one that I did with the isopropyl alcohol. So you guys can see the difference, right? This one is a little bit more blended together, more seamlessly. This one has a little bit more billowy look to it, but that's kind of the difference between the two that I've seen. I think I have another one that I could show you in a different color combination. So this one, again, is the isopropyl alcohol. It has more of those individual billows throughout, and then this one is similar colors, maybe not exactly the same colors, but that is the blending solution. Here's another one with the blending solution. So you can see how the difference, you can still get some of those areas to show up with the rings. It just depends on how you apply your ink, but this gives a little bit different look than that. Does that make sense? All right. Let's put some of this together. I'm going to use the blending solution on this one. So when I start, I usually try to think about where do I want my design to travel? Do I want to go down this way? Do I want to go down this way? Do I want to go more top to bottom? How do I want to achieve the look that I'm going for? And I think this time I'm just going to do a top to bottom, almost like a fade. And we're going to use a couple of colors. We're going to use Rainforest Green, and my personal favorite, which is probably no surprise, is teal. Hi, Michelle. Okay, so we're going to start with that ink blending solution, and I'm actually just going to put it down onto this cardstock, squeezing it, kind of stopping about 3/4 of the way down. There are definitely a lot of different ways that you can do alcohol ink blends on a background, so please know that this isn't the only way. There really isn't a right way to do it. You can achieve lots of different effects by doing different things. So some people like to put just one color down and then move it around a little bit with your air blower. This is kind of my preferred method. I feel like I can control it a little bit better when I use kind of one color at a time. But when I was crafting with Susan, she likes to put all of her solution down and then drop multiple colors down on her cardstock. So before it starts to really dry, I want to move that around. You can always add more solution. So if I want to add more of this alcohol blending solution, I can do that. We're going to put, wrong one, get these bottles mixed up. You can also, if you don't want a full drop on there, you can just take and lightly touch the tip to your cardstock, and then that will give you a little bit smaller drop of color. And then we can move that around, keep pushing it towards the bottom. Now sometimes I like these little fingerlings, I call them. I don't know, there's probably a better, more technical term for them. Sometimes I like those, and you get those by really moving up close with your air blower and giving it a good amount of air to push onto, and then it sends it down into kind of one of those fingerlings. Now if you don't like where anything is going, there's a lot of opportunity to change it. So you can add more blending solution, you can add more color, you can add different color, you can even come back later and reactivate what you've already done and kind of redo it. So it's really just about playing and trying and moving color. It's kind of hard to see this very light green that I have going on over here, but I'm kind of loving how this is turning out. It's a calming color combination. I'm leaving a place for my sentiment to hit at the bottom. All right. I think I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. I have been through almost 2 full bottles. I have just this much left in each of these 2 bottles of the alcohol blending solution. So this is more expensive, obviously, than this giant $2 bottle of isopropyl alcohol. Just so you know, if you want to sit down and you already know you love this, you might want to grab an extra bottle of that blending solution, because it does go faster than what you think. So I'm trying to work this out over here because I didn't like how that spread once it was starting to dry. So I'm just going to keep moving that around in its little area there. Okay. So sometimes as it's drying, those colors will continue to move, and then they'll create almost like, if they just branch out, then they create like a white circle or a lighter circle that I don't often like. So try to keep an eye on it as it's drying in case you might want to catch it or apply some more solution. Oh, thank you, Brenda. She says it's turning out stunning. So the 2 colors I used again are the Rainforest Green, which you see up here, and then the teal. The teal goes with just about everything, and I think I've used about a half a bottle of that as well, because you know me and teal. Okay, so I want this to dry just a little bit more, and then I want to show you how you can apply foil to your background, and the foil, as I mentioned before, sticks to the resin, the gatherings. There is a resin in the blending solution, and our foil is going to stick to it without any heat source. I am going to grab a paper towel and just wipe up my area here. So you can use your isopropyl alcohol as a cleaning tool as well. Move this pretty guy out of the way, and then you can clean up your desk area. The nice thing about alcohol is it evaporates very quickly, so there's usually not a huge need to dry your work area. The Tim Holtz glass mat works amazingly for this technique. It's easy cleanup. You don't want to get this on things like your beautiful countertops or anything. My desktop here is a wood butcher block. That would wreak havoc on my wood butcher block. So just be aware that this ink does stain. You know, I forgot to put on my apron. Here I had my apron all ready to go and I forgot it. Okay, so I'm gonna grab some foil. Touch this just a little bit. Okay, it is no longer wet. We are going to grab a little piece of got some silver foil here. We're just going to place that down over the top before it is completely dry. And you don't want to burnish with anything like hard because you can leave scratch marks on your pattern. So just lightly with your fingertip here across the background. Now we're going to pull that up and you can see already here, maybe I should do the wow reveal into the camera a little bit better. So as you begin to pull it up, you can see that the foil is sticking to the gatherings of the, oh, it's so pretty. There it is. So you get that gorgeous foiled look. It just steps it up a notch. I love how right up here where that line is traveling, you have the foil. You guys, it's hard to capture all of this beauty on the video, but it is really pretty. And then you can go ahead and reuse this piece of foil. So obviously it hasn't stuck everywhere, so I can push that down onto a new project when I'm ready to create. So sentiment could rest right here at the bottom. I've got a couple of these die cut here. You can see what that might look like over the top of this as well. It's so pretty. Do you guys like it? I like it. I'm pretty happy with it. Okay, so I also wanted to, looks like I've got a little bit of time left, so I wanted to make a card using one of our pre-printed panels. And this was one of my favorites that I came up with during our little session. If you want to try to recreate something like this, the colors that I recommend for that are my favorite teal, and then the red color is called sangria. And then when you push those two colors together, you get this beautiful kind of plum purple color. So I thought that made a really pretty, a really pretty subtle piece for a sympathy card. The one color that I wouldn't recommend for sympathy would be the Senorita Magenta. So let me grab the, okay. This does not scream sympathy, so maybe stay away from that if you're using this for sympathy cards, but I did put it in my favorites, my top 15, because it's really pretty. Of course, when you combine it with the yellow, it's going to make orange. So kind of going back to your kindergarten days, or when you were blending ink colors, you often think about, you know, blue and red makes purple. So think about those things as you're combining colors together. Yellow and pink makes orange. Yellow and blue makes green. So choose complementary colors that are gonna like blend together to make a beautiful third color. All right, so we are going to use this panel. I've got my Misty Actually, I should probably put away the alcohol inks that I have out. I am known to make a mess of things. So hold please while I get this put away. And please don't hold it against me if I get ink on my, I'm gonna try my best, but my fingers are dirty. I need to wash them with my scrubby after this. Okay, so I'm gonna use my powder tool on this piece of cardstock that is printed. And then I've got my stamp. We could use a lot of different ones. Let me see. This is what I'm going to put up here. Now, if I was thinking, I really like the one that says sharing in your sorrow. How does that look down here? I think that's going to be beautiful, so we'll do that. Right about there. Make sure that I've got it straight over here. I need something white underneath so I can see my grid lines. They're hard to see on the black. Okay, well, it's straight. I love it when I don't have to change anything. All right, so Versamark. Oh, I'm sorry, Mary. Sorry, not sorry. Actually, not sorry because you do such beautiful work. I want to lead you down every rabbit hole so I can see what you create. So this was a fun rabbit hole that I was led down as well, obviously many years ago, but also just more recently picking it back up again, trying some new colors and some different solutions and just fun experimenting, really. Okay. All right, I don't want to empty my embossing powder into my MISTI. So now, one thing I will mention, so once I get done pouring the embossing powder over the top, I usually do a tap off into my garbage can, like right on the edge of my garbage, so that those extra bits just fall off. So you can kind of hear that I just tapped it off into the garbage. And then all of those extra little flyaways that okay, I think I got it all. Okay, Tracy, it looks like Heather gave you a link to the distress paste that was used on that project, and I'll give you guys a little teaser. So if you haven't used this before, or embossing paste in general, Susan is going to be here with the live on Thursday, and she's going to be using the texture paste and sharing some tips for creating this look. But this is the product that's now available at the TE store. And it is put on with something like the like a palette knife or a stencil pal or the Nuvo media spatulas, something along those lines. Okay, so here we have our panel. Now this is full card sized, so now would be the time if you want to cut it down and create it to go onto an A2 card. You would cut that down by 1/4 of an inch or a little bit on each side. Sometimes that might be easier to do before you even do your embossing, because now I want it to stay in the positioning that I have, so I need to cut a little bit off of each side. But I'm going to continue on because I want to show you guys the beautiful splattering with these Gansai Tombi liquid watercolors, or not liquid watercolors, the Gansai Tombi watercolors. So they are cakes. This is a pan watercolor set, and like I said, it goes from, I have it upside down again, white gold all the way up to a blue gold, and you can just mix those with water. Similarly to what Heather does when she splatters with her, I'm going to do the blue gold here on the end. Similarly to how she splatters with her sugar cube ink, you just take a little bit of water to wet down the cake till you have enough to pick up the gold. I'm going to do this without my apron and potentially regret it. Actually, I do almost regret it. I have some on my arm already. Okay, so I just like to load my brush up with that gold paint, and then one thing that I didn't do before that I want to do now. This is probably not normally how I would do this. A lot of times I take a Post-it note, but I don't have one of those. So I'm taking a little bit of paper towel, and I'm just going to cover up my sentiment so that I don't get my splatters in an important part of my word. Now, the bigger the round brush you use, the bigger the splatters will be. And I just tap that over the cardstock until I get the amount of splatter that I want. I can hold, I'll remove my little paper towel, and then you can see how that turned out. So the gold shows up really nicely over the top of the red. If you wanted to hit this with an embossing gun, you could do that to speed up the drying process, but it does eventually dry on there. I have made a mess of my glass mat. So the name of the splatter that I used again is the Gonzai Tombi Starry watercolors, and these are available at the TE web store as well. Okay, so you guys saw that I cut out that leafy frond. One of the things that I've been loving is, this is a very dainty frond also, but one of the things I've been loving is cutting it out of two different colors, and, well, not colors, a vellum and a white, and layering them together. So you get kind of that really flowy, ethereal look when you adhere those down. So that is what that will look like once my specks are completely dry. Who else likes to touch things before they're dry and then you regret it? I think they're dry, or most of them are dry. The bigger splatters might not be dry, but these down here, they're dry. But we're gonna wait because I don't want to ruin anything. I'm gonna take my paintbrush though, and I'm actually gonna grab some more of this blue gold color, and I'm just gonna add some detailing on the white layer of the leafy frond. So if I come in a little bit closer, you guys can see what I'm doing. And then that will match with my embossed sentiment and my pretty splatters in the background. If you guys haven't had a chance to check out the design team's projects with this kit, then you should run to the blog. Kavya did an amazing watercolor card, and she tipped her leaves. Her frond was watercolored, and then she created the most beautiful gold tips, which kind of gave me the idea for this when I saw her project, which hers is totally different, but I loved the idea of adding this gold paint to the die cut. All right. Kind of draws it all together. So you've got your gold splatters, your gold embossed sentiment, your gold on your die cut, and I will pop that up on here and then place it onto a card base. So let me see if I can find the one that I made. I've got stuff, here it is. I've got stuff everywhere. So this is the original one that I made, and I used a different sentiment. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. But everything else is the same. So really easy. This is a mulled wine on the card base, matches really nicely with the colors that are up in this corner here. Awesome. I don't know. I know Charlie's been here and Heather's been answering questions too. So hopefully you guys got your questions answered, because I was just so enamored with my alcohol inking that I forgot to look at a lot of comments. So there's the one that we did before with that pretty silver in the background, the silver foil as well. So hopefully you're feeling inspired to try something new. We would, of course, always love to see what you create. So you can share those on the Tailored Expressions fan page. Let's get you guys back here. All right. So thanks for tuning in today. And yeah, I hope you're feeling inspired to try something that maybe you haven't tried before or you haven't tried for a long time. Like I said before, Susan will be here on Thursday. She will be exploring some more with the pre-printed backgrounds and using items that are not part of the kit. Including that distress paste that I shared with you as well. So tune in for Susan at 10 o'clock. I will see you then to introduce her. Until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And if you're in the cold and the snow, I hope you stay warm and stay safe on the roads if you have to go out. And those of you enjoying the sunshine, soak it up for the rest of us, please. Happy 2/22/22. Have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.